In today's video, we're going to be breaking down some of my training footage. This is some defensive sparring footage from last week. I'm going to show you good things and bad things and talk you through some defense philosophy, lane theory, all sorts of stuff will be on display here. Let's get right into it. I've left the first round in its entirety on here, and then I've chopped up the next 3 rounds of defense work into some good moments and some bad moments so that we can have discussions about them. I think defense-only work is one of the most important technical aspects of your boxing training. In the absence of you taking the risks and simply having the temptation of trying to hit your sparring partner, it really focuses you on thinking positionally, on layering in your defense, on staying on base, on getting elbow side, on working your way through your opponent and being conservative with when you yield ground, which are all lessons that when you reintroduce your offense will allow you to find a home for those punches and counters you're looking for. We'll show examples later of something I call carnival boxing, where you're leaning into or you're gaming the fact that your opponent's not trying to kill you or your teammate's not hitting you hard or you don't need to be in a position to be able to counter them back. So you're tall and you're crossing your feet and you're bouncing and you're jumping. This is what I call carnival boxing, where you'll make a normal person look silly if you're behaving this way, but in a real fight where you actually have to turn this momentum around and do damage, you're only hurting your habits because you're not training yourself to be on base, to make somebody barely miss, to layer in your defense, and to have the strong structure in your stance and your posture to be able to counter somebody hard and punish them. Classic Italian boxing is make 'em miss, make 'em pay. One of my favorite fighters and a defensive wizard, Dwight Muhammad Qawi, says, "Be hard to hit and hit hard." Boxing is a perfect closed system. There are no dead ends if you understand the sweet science. You need to have extreme accountability and you need to hold yourself to a high standard both when you're sparring and when you're drilling, and you need to recognize that if you got hit, it's because you either made a mistake or you misunderstood a situation. Especially when doing defense work, boxing is a very defensively weighted sport compared to kickboxing or MMA. You have so many more tools to keep yourself safe and protect yourself than your opponent has weapons to hurt you. And if you're layering in those tools appropriate, you shouldn't be taking a significant amount of damage. The first moment I've selected is a sequence of mistakes, each attempting to fix the previous and culminating in me getting punched flush in the face. Our next sequence demonstrates me fixing the error that got me punched in the previous sequence. Our next selection shows some examples of lane theory, which is the concept that in certain positions you can only be hit quickly and powerfully with specific punches, and you can leverage this to your advantage to bait those shots and better position yourself to counter. In this moment, I got caught tall and had to channel my inner Canelo to keep myself safe. Here we have another moment where I end up out of position, but this time I use my clinch tactics and my understanding of traffic to tie up and exit in a safe manner. Earlier we talked about carnival boxing. Right here is an example of me doing just that, where I'm being too athletic, too reactive. I'm not layering in my defense. I'm making Dan miss by a mile, and I would never be in a position to absorb force or to generate force if this was a real fight and a real game opponent where I needed to counter back. Just because it looks slick and it looks like you could throw it on Instagram doesn't mean that it's valuable work for you developing as an athlete and as a boxer. Here's another example of me using my understanding of lane theory to bait punches and use them to exit exchanges. I talk about the concept of traffic a lot on this channel because I think it's important to understand. All that traffic is an obstruction through your opponent's path of attack. I'm always telling my novice fighters to not think about punches like big scary attacks that you should be afraid of, but to welcome them because they're opportunities for you to better your position or for you to counter. Eventually you get to a place where you want your opponent to punch because it allows you to end up in a better spot than they will. These are the final 30 seconds of our fourth round working together. You can see all of this stuff on display. I'm controlling lanes and angles, I'm layering in my defense, I'm creating traffic, I'm baiting punches, I'm trying to exit through my opponent. All these things come together to make you a good boxer. It's a big system, there's a lot to it, it's hard to apply, but it all starts by being strict, by being accountable, and by really trying to educate yourself as well as you can so that you can have success when you fight.